he never showed up. So this is when I had a choice, if I'm going to feeling hurt all the time, or I just accepted it that he's who he is, and I never really had any expectations. I'm like a little foxy dog, yeah? If I want something, I'm never going to let it go until I get it. So it's same in the business, it's same in my life. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm going to do anything harming other people, because I never do. But I want to say, there is always a solution. Always a solution. And even, then I realized, you're never going to make money as an artist unless you die, So I thought, really, I needed money while I was alive. But then my grandfather didn't like the idea, because my father's side of our family, they were quite high up. My grandfather was head of the police, and he had an idea for us, what kind of schools we should go. And I really liked the idea to become a hairdresser, but we had to put it on hold.
Every time I say it. All right. So, question number one. If everyone doesn't already know that you grew up in Hungary, they do now. Can you tell us what life was like as a kid growing up there?
Yeah, so I think life wasn't really too much different from your life, guys. It's just basically you grew up in a nicer place, yeah, because Hungary is right in the middle of Europe, which gives us a lot of opportunity to travel and everything. But when I grew up, Hungary still was a communist country. So it was very, very interesting, because we had two different passports. We had a blue passport, which allowed us only to travel to communist countries. So we couldn't see, the other countries that, yeah, I know, it's very interesting, isn't it? We couldn't see the other countries which, had better lives. So we didn't have any idea about, how other countries or people are living. And if you were extremely lucky, then you could get the red passport. And with the red passport, you could go to Austria or to, other countries. But basically, when I grew up, it was all about communism. What was good about it is the community. Like, people had, literally everyone was on the same level. The country is basically provided job for everyone. So it was pretty easy to get a job, but you didn't get paid too much. And in the same time, there were lots of people hanging around in workplaces and not much to do. So, but the community was great, because, basically the people, because we had not much, we shared everything. So we lived in a place where it was, lots of houses and higher rise buildings, 10 levels, 10 stories buildings. And yeah, we've got really good friends, and we weren't really suffering. Like, we weren't poor. Like, we had food on the table. And the good thing is that we weren't influenced with the outsider. I'm meaning, we didn't even have McDonald's until I was 18. So all the food and everything what we had, it was all grown in my grandparents' yard, or backyard. And our mom always cooked. So, the morning meals, the breakfast, they were prepared breakfast, dinner, it was prepared dinner. So in a way, looking back, I think we actually grown up in a really, really good environment, but we didn't know too much about anything else.
Yeah, wow. So, all right. Well, if that was your childhood and it was pretty, sheltered and everything, what was it that you wanted to be when you grew up? Like, what choices?
So it's actually very interesting. I was extremely artistic, so I had a exhibition as a artist. Like, I liked paintings, and I had this exhibition, and I was thinking, it would be really great to to become an artist. But like then I realized, like you're never going to make money as an artist unless you die. So I thought that's not really that's not really a good way, to make money. Like I needed money while I was alive. So then I really really liked the idea to become a hairdresser. But
Okay.
then my grandfather didn't like the idea because my father's side of our family, they were quite high up. My grandfather was head of the police, and he had an idea for us, like what kind of schools we should go. And I really liked the idea to become a hairdresser, but we had to put it on hold because he just would not let me not to finish high school. And like he wanted me to go to university, which I really didn't want to because I just wasn't interested to learning and studying. I wanted to get out there and do something and earn money because obviously like our parents, they actually couldn't afford to get a lot for us. So for me, it was if I wanted something for myself, I had to find a way to actually make money and get it for myself. Or if I wanted something, the deal always was, all right, so we're going to put together half and the other half, how are you going to make the other half? What are you going to do? Like, are you going to wash the dishes and we're going to give you some money for it? Or are you going to do this and that and we're going to give you money for it? So this is how I grew up. So I actually pretty quickly had to learn how to earn money.
So when you one of the questions here I've got, so and I think you may have slightly answered it. What is the biggest lesson you were able to take from your childhood?
Oh, resilience. Really, like
Yeah.
it was a lot going on. So one thing what I like to share, and I'm not ashamed of, like our family wasn't really the perfect family. My father became an alcoholic, and he was quite abusive. So my mom ended up divorcing after, like, when I was around 14, and it happened because I just had enough. And one day I had a conversation with my mom when I was around 14 that you either going to divorce or I going to move out because it was very stressful. Like my father was a very, very interesting person. He was a really good man when he didn't drink. And he had like a good 2 or 3 months when he didn't. But then when he did, he neglected everything. Like one of the story what we are still keep mentioning, like my mom asked him to go to the shops, which was 5 minutes walk to grab a milk. And he didn't come home for 2 days because he met with one of his mate and they ended up in the pub. And he, like he came home 2 days later, or he was, promising to me to meet front of a shop because I wanted to get, I think it was a skateboard or something like that. And he did let me down like 4 or 5 times, like we went there with my mom, he never showed up. So this is when I had a choice, if I'm going to feeling hurt all the time, or I just accepted it that he's who he is. And I never really had any expectations towards anyone ever in my life because I knew I only can trust in myself and no expectations. So if you promise me something, then if you come, it's really great. But if don't, it's not going to hurt me because it's just going to be a reflection of who you are. So that belongs to the story.
Sorry, my computer just went crazy. That's actually a really powerful lesson to learn quite early. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
none of
yeah,
my
yeah.
lessons were like that. Mine were more angsty teenager lessons, and yours is more like, I'm not going to let you hurt me. You
Yeah, yeah.
that's why you're so good at what you do because you don't take anything
Well,
personally,
you know
do you?
what? The thing is, the way I see my father now, he was one of my biggest teacher because he shaped my life. So without him showing me the way he was, obviously it was my choice. I made a decision what I'm going to do with this. But yeah, like without him, if I would have grown up in an idyllic family, I never would become so resilient, because when you have everything, and you never have to figure out anything in your life, because everything is handed over to you, and you have this whole nice and rosy and magical environment to grow up. When you go out there is a big jungle. Yeah, how you say, there is a jungle out there. So,
Yeah.
like for me, I came from the jungle. I was very well prepared to actually go outside to the jungle. And I think this why I become so confident, and also um, so conscious about a lot of things. And I have quite high awareness about environment. And also I learned how can I protect myself without, how can I protect myself, and in the same time, like still stay normal.
As normal as you can be.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well then, so do you think it was your dad, or is there another person that was really influential in your life?
Well, my dad was the negative side, if we want to put label on it, yeah, because I see it as a positive right now. Like when he passed away young. He was only 48. When he passed away, I was extremely angry at him, because I was angry at him not being able to create a good life for himself. Like he just wasted his life in my eye, but obviously is not.
Mhm.
But now what I can see, that was a positive. But really, a very, very positive influence in my life is my mom.
Oh, I
Without
love
her
your mum.
strength, without her strength, we wouldn't be, me and my sister, we wouldn't be where we are. Like she was
Mm.
always so strong for us, and like we were struggling. We didn't have a lot of money. I remember her, and this is a story which is still hurting my heart, that she was wearing the same coat in winter for like 10 years, because she had to buy coat for my sister, for me, and like all those little bits and pieces. But she never said a bad word about my father. Like once they divorced, both of them, they had partners, and we celebrated Christmas, name day. In Hungary we have name days, or birthdays. We celebrated together. So my father brought his partner and her two girls, and my mom had a partner and he has two girls. So suddenly it was six girls in the family, and we all got together really well. Like it was just amazing. So
6
for me,
teenage girls?
yeah. And for me, like that was a really great example. When you separate from someone, you are still on good terms. So I brought that into my own life when uh, only one boyfriend in my life. I'm not in bad term, but if I can avoid, like I don't want to talk to him, or I don't want to see him. But all the other boyfriends and my long-term partner, we are still very good friends. So that was something. But my mom is amazing. She is so strong, and she was always so understanding. So she's a strong woman, like we left her in Hungary. Me and my sister, we live here in Australia, but she never put a blame on us, or she never blackmailing us, like, oh, you left me here, and look at you guys, like, yeah, it's just, she's just amazing. So she's very independent also. So she built her own life, and she doesn't want to come to live in Australia, because she has her friends, and she has an amazing life over there. So yeah.
She's happy. Um, yeah, your mum is a pretty special lady. I love Mama V. Neither Mama V doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Hungarian other than swear words and bad phrases that Adri and our friend Sylvie have taught me. But I love Mama V.
Yeah.
We can't speak to each other, but we love each other.
Yeah.
All right. So, what was your first job? If you wanted to be a hairdresser, but what was your first job?
So, because I couldn't study hairdressing straight away, because my grandfather had a path in mind, so I had to finish high school. And after high school, I was very resilient. I didn't want to study anymore, And this is when he helped me to get a job. just a couple of phone calls, and here we are, like Adri has a job. So I ended up in a quite big company in an IT department, and they didn't need it anyone, but let's put her there. So I was there, fluffing around, doing not much really. And then, like this is when computers started to become popular. So then I started to work in that part with computers, and that was my first job, which it was interesting. I had quite good money. I worked with really nice people, so that was good. Like I worked with really good people. It was because it was no pressure on anyone. Like if you finished your job, you finished. If you didn't, like who cares? Like we really didn't have any boundaries or anything. So, but the good thing is, it started me on a journey for computers, which later on. I actually ended up to become a software developer, but that was far, far ahead. So the first job was a job that I've got because of my grandfather.
So my next question is, what led you to go against your grandfather and go into hairdressing? How did that come about?
Well, I think after a while he softened, and yeah. So he had, because it was a communist country. Like even for me to be interested in, say, Buddhism or any other or any religions, like he just, like when I started to be interested in Bible, not because I wanted to be like praying or being religious, it's just curiosity. Yeah,
Mhm.
that made him really, really he didn't like it. So he actually ended up saying, and as much as he loved us, and he was a really, really good grandfather. He loved us so much. But he had these little boxes around, like what we should have feel. So when I started to do that, when I started to get interested in, religions or whatever, he basically told to me, if I don't stop it, he is actually, I'm not going to be to his granddaughter anymore. So slowly, slowly, like I started to,
Chip
like,
away at it.
yeah, just chip away out of it, and yeah, so and then I ended up doing hairdressing anyway.
Oh. It's the thing. I think it would have been really hard for him coming from a communist country and being raised that way and knowing like he has to follow the rules and especially in his influential position that having a granddaughter that's not towing the line, the party line,
I know.
would have been like mind blowing for him.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I went absolutely against of his programming, like all the programming what was happening in school. Yeah.
Yeah. The all right, so I love this story. What was your first car?
Oh, our first car with one of my boyfriends.
Adriana and I were driving along one day, and I can't remember. We were talking cars, and she told me this story about her car and the way they used to do things there, and it cracks me up. All right, so tell me about this first car.
So it's a car, but most of you probably wouldn't even know it existed. It's called Warburg. It was a German
Oh,
car.
what?
Warburg.
I'm not. I
Anyway,
can't even type that.
yeah, it was a car. Look, like for us, it looked amazing. It was really good. But, like I told Jodie the story that, like in Hungary, we have snow, and obviously we have, winter tire and summer tire. But, like when you were driving this car or most of the crappy cars, yeah, what we had in Hungary, sometimes the car couldn't go uphill. So we actually, one person was driving and two was sitting on the front, so pushing the weight down to the front wheel so the car could go up the hill. So, and many times we had to push it. And also it was just a common thing, like in winter, like it was black ice, and car were sliding here and there, and we basically bumped into each other, but it wasn't such a big deal because like it happened to everyone. So but yeah, so Warburg was our first car, and then we leveled up. So the next car was actually a Volkswagen Golf, which was very pushy that time.
So, all right. So you ended up in the posh car. So, what ended up um, bringing you to leave Hungary?
Well, it's very interesting because I never liked Hungary, so I never felt connected to Hungary. And yeah, some of my friends they started to move overseas. Some of them they moved to Australia. Some of them they moved to America. But we started to leave Hungary and our town because we wanted to have a better life. And I must say, like for me, I had a good job then. I actually worked in software development. I was testing softwares. I had really good money and good jobs, but I didn't like Hungary. I didn't like the mentality, the negativity. And I remember one of our friends moved to Australia and she told to us, like, oh, come over, girls. But it was so difficult to get visa. So my friend who I wanted to come over to Australia, she ended up in America. And I applied to a visa in America, but I couldn't get it. And I started to date with my ex when I was applying for all these visas. And I kept applying for Australia a visa. And while I was waiting, he applied for an Australian visa and he actually got a visa. So he told to me, well, like I go and you come after me. And this is how we ended up. So we came to Australia. We loved it so much. We thought like, well, let's start a new life here in Australia. Literally, we thought about that. We couldn't even speak English. And we didn't know how to find a job or what to do, like we were very delusional. We had money in the beginning, so that money paid for, the student visa and for education, what we had to go through. But yeah, the most important things like speaking and, speaking English or all the others. So I always think, like when people are saying, like, oh, you must have been so brave. And I'm just like, I'm not quite sure if I was brave or stupid. So, like, to move to a country without anything, But then we made a decision that we actually not going to keep in touch with Hungarian people because then we never going to learn the language and then we always going to depend on like a Hungarian community. And it was a rough road. It was very difficult, and but we never looked back. We always thought that was the right and best decision for us. So yeah.
And what you've had you owned businesses before, like our part of the story, the
Yeah.
salon, or you had what businesses had you owned before, and were they here or there or both?
So in Hungary, I owned together with my then boyfriend, we had like a branding business. So we created flyers, logos, business cards, and all those things. This is how I met with my long-term ex, like János, who we came actually
Yeah.
together to Australia. So
Oh.
that was a business what I had. But here in Australia, then like we had multiple businesses because János was already a businessman, like a very established businessman in Hungary. He had at one time we laughed, but he had 7 businesses together. And he's a very smart guy, so he was managing all these things. I don't know, like honestly, I don't think he's human. Like his brain is so fast and he's so smart, But I learned a lot from him. So when we moved to Australia, after a while, he started his own business and I helped him with that business. And then together we had a export and import company. And then
Mhm.
he moved to Australia, he moved to China, and he started a factory over there in China. So this is how we actually ended up being separated because first we did the long distance for a while, and then I didn't want to move to China. I didn't want to move to Hong Kong. So we just decided that, well, from now on, after I don't know, it was like 18 years or 15 years.
Yeah,
I
it was
can't
a long
remember.
time, wasn't it?
I'm really bad with numbers. So when someone asks, like, when did you broke up? I don't even know the year. So we just decided that we both go, separate ways. So I stayed in Australia and he stayed in China. So yeah. And then I ended up with a hair salon, what I never wanted.
I know. The next question was, can you tell your version of how we met and how you ended up, um, yeah, owning the salon that
Yeah.
you wanted?
Yeah, so that was a very stressful situation for me because I used to work in a hair salon, and basically what happened, they decided from one day to the other to shut the salon. So obviously, like we didn't know that they either had financial problems or I don't even have any idea. But basically 2 weeks before Christmas, they did let us know that after Christmas, they're going to close the shop and off we go, So that was it. And this is when I started to think about, like Janos is already started to do business in China. I had to look after myself because he had to look after himself. We invested money. And I'm just like, well, this salon is closed. So clients are going to find us anyway. And I just didn't want to take all those clients to another business. And this is when I said, well, I'm going to look for rent a chair because then I'm going to work for myself. I will have my own hours and, like everything else. And little I know about that, 10 years ago, or I don't know how many years ago, probably 10, 11, 12 years ago. Oh, no, we met 13 years ago, actually.
Harper,
So
14. No, it's 14 now. Harper just
14.
turned 14.
Yeah, so that time, rent a chair was almost non-existent here in Australia. In Hungary, it was normal. So I was walking around with my little, resume, looking for rent a chair, and no one wanted to rent a chair for me. So then I was really upset about it, and I said, like, so what am I supposed to do? I didn't want to go to work for someone else, and I decided that time it was Gumtree, a big thing where you could put advertisements. So I actually did put an advertisement that I'm looking for a rent a chair. I was writing down who I am, what kind of environment I'm looking for. And then I got an answer like 5 minutes later. And I said, oh my God, like this is something which, I'm supposed to do. And the funny thing was about it that your salon was 5 minutes walk from where I used to live. But for some reason, I never even thought about it to go to your salon to ask for rent a chair. It was just that salon for me. It was like in a little funny spot where I never got off the bus. Like I just never really recognized that a salon was there. So then I answered right away, and then I went to see you. You were like, yeah, just come anytime. Like I will be there. I have a very young baby, and like we will be around. So I went there, and I think we clicked from the beginning. Like you were so lovely. It's we had a
Which
really good chat.
surprises me, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because it was a different relationship. Like when you offer for someone, like a space, and they're going to pay for you for that. Like it's very different from an
Yeah.
employee or employment
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
And you probably got me on a good day.
Yeah, I don't know. We clicked, and you told me, like, all right, so I'm going to, have a agreement for you, and you wanted to. I think it was 2 weeks ahead, like a bond, what I
It was
had
the
to pay.
bond and it was the
Yeah,
bond and then 2 weeks rent, I think. Yeah.
yeah. And also what you offered for me, it was another girl too who was renting a chair. It was the flexibility, and that was really, really good for us. And also the fairness, what it was, like if you ask us to look after one of the client because you couldn't, we actually had a agreement about it, the share, what we're going to get. So you never took advantage of us. We never took advantage of you, and everyone knew their place. So, and like then then really we started to bond. And then it's so funny because we had our initial meeting. 1 week later, I moved to the salon. And when I moved there with my, all my stuff and everything, then you came to me and you said, "Oh, guess what?" And I said, "What? I'm pregnant again." The baby is like hardly doing anything. So
She was
nice.
only 4 months old. She was only 4 months
Yeah,
old, I think.
yeah. And then you asked me if I would manage the salon for you, and I said like, "Oh my God, like I was just kicked out from, like a position, like I went through all these things, and I said I can't even think about it to managing the business for you." So actually, we were leaving that subject for a little while, and I think a couple of months later, I told to you, like, yeah, if you want me, I can manage the
Yeah, I
business.
think because it was so early in the pregnancy, I'd
Yeah.
had that sort of knee-jerk reaction of, "Oh my God, um, what can I do?" And then you were my plan, and so I'm like, "It's all right, I'll plant the seed and then I'll work on it." Take the pressure off, ease her into a false sense of security that there's no expectations.
Yeah, yeah.
It was, yeah, because it must have been when did you I think you took over once Bryn was born, didn't you? I'm trying to remember. You started managing because I couldn't be there with Bryn anymore.
I think yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. When Bryn was born, yeah, this is when I took over. I took over. Well, like I helped you to
Oh, it
manage,
started
obviously.
yeah, yeah. You started managing. You started taking little jobs off my hand, and then
Yeah,
we came to an arrangement that I'm like, okay, well, if you can do this portion of it, because I think by that stage I'd moved um, away from the salon a bit to be
yeah,
closer to family because I didn't have any support back then.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, no, it was okay. And then what happened?
And then what
How did
happened?
you end up? How did you
Then
end up with the salon?
well, with the salon I never wanted.
Yes, hey, it
Well,
was the salon I never wanted either. So
Well, you suggested a couple of times that I should take over the salon because it become too much for you, and it was hard for you to manage. Plus, like you had life challenges also. But we will talk about it when I going to interview you, because I really want people to understand that what you are doing, it's absolutely amazing, and people can balance work, business, and also family and children. So we will talk about that. But basically, like I was suggested a couple of times to take over the business, and I kept resisting it because I had this idea in my mind that I'm making so much money, like I just wanted to go back to rent a chair. Like I promised you 3 years. And I said, once that finish, like I just want to go back, rent a chair, and just, look after myself. Little I understand about it that being a sole operator, it was actually quite insecure,
mhm,
because wherever I wanted to go for a holiday, I didn't make money. I had to think twice to take time for being sick, because then you don't make money.
mhm.
And obviously, when you have a business and when you have a team, all that luxury is going to come with once you're running a business properly, then you can take time off. So I remember, like we had a couple of meetings, and then one day I said, "All right, I'm ready to take over the business." And this is when you came and you said, "You know what? The business
It's
is
working
just
well
starting
at the
to
moment.
make a little bit of extra money. So can I just have the business a little longer? So at least, like I can enjoy to take some money." And I said, yeah, just whatever it is, like for me, it wasn't urgent, and I really didn't really wanted to take the business over. But
Business,
yeah,
yeah.
eventually we ended up. So I took over the business, and
I
uh,
remember one of the conversations we had when I was convincing you to, and convincing, let me just tell you, convincing Adriana to do anything she doesn't want to do is no easy feat. Like, you really need to show her why she would want to do this if she's got it in her mind that she doesn't. Like, there's no
but
moving her.
But you are
But
quite resistant. If you want to achieve something, you will come after me until we're gonna
until
find
she gives you,
some
until I find my way in and find the right motivation for Adri. Like what? So I remember one of the biggest things that got you to soften to the idea was that I'd said to you, okay, so what's your retirement plan?
Yeah.
What is it? So you're working for yourself and you're doing this. What's your exit strategy? Like what do like are you paying yourself super? Um, what's going to be your retirement plan? Because at this stage, Janosch was over in China. So it was completely different to like when we first met and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was, I remember one of the big conversations that we had, and you're like, I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
like, and then I started pointing out the benefits of, being able to have an asset, create the asset, sell the asset when you finish with the asset. Um, and so we had that kind of conversation. But gosh, it took me a long time until I found that little. And then once I did have my in, I was like, oh, the salon's finally making money. I just need, let me just recoup some of my, because when I say finally, because I'd stepped out of the salon and I wasn't there, and I had no capacity, and we'll go into my side of it later, but it was, just so that it covered everyone. It wasn't losing money, but finally it was like I could see, some back into the coffers. But yeah, it took me. You are one hard egg to crack, my love.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, let me see what other questions we've got here. Oh, guys, I've got a new computer set up, and do you think I can find where I've put anything now? It's it's crazy. All right. Um, so as I'm just going to ask a couple of like one little question. What was the best decision you made out of um, all the choices that which was the defining moment, do you think, in your journey up until the salon? What's the moment that kind of stands out the most?
For until I got the salon,
Hmm.
like us learning or
Yeah, the biggest learning. So sorry, I'll reword that. What was your biggest learning? Because I know we've had a lot of learning since that point
yeah,
in time. I
yeah.
think we've had more learnings in the last 3 years than. But
Well,
so,
when
what
it
was
comes
your biggest learning then?
Yeah, so my biggest learning was really, if I think about how difficult it was to actually get a permanent residency and citizenship here in Australia. And I was told probably 5 or 6 times to go home because I'm never going to make it, I'm never going to get the visa. And that I never gave up and I always find the solution. I never backed off, like I did not care whatever whoever was saying because I wanted to stay so much here in Australia. I love the ocean. I love that people are so friendly and relaxed and, positive minded compared to Hungary, absolutely. And I think the biggest learning for me it was if you really want something, you will find the way around it. It's maybe not going to be easy, but you're going to get there at the end. So it's very important because this is what I'm implementing everywhere in my life. I'm like a little foxy dog, yeah. If I want something, I'm never going to let it go until I get it. So it's same in the business. It's same in my life. Obviously, like I'm not saying that I'm going to do anything harming other people because I never do. What I want to say, like there is always a solution. And even with my visa, like how many times I heard no, and we cannot do it. And then I got back to the lawyer and I said, how about if we try this? And then the lawyer is, oh, I didn't think about that. We can try that.
Mm.
So I just learned, like there is always a solution for everything.
Yeah, and it shows the resilience that you have, being able to just keep coming back at it and back at it and back at it at different angles. Um, But one thing that people that don't know you won't know this about you is that Adriana is one of the most ethical people I've ever met. Hence why um, I was able to sell the salon in the way that I sold the salon to Adria. Like we've got so much trust because we did a thing back then called vendor finance,
Yeah.
which is you have to really trust the buyer
Mm.
to go down the path of vendor finance. Um, and I could do that without any hesitation. And then starting a business with you and all the things that we go through is that honesty and trust and being so ethical, even when I've seen situations where people have done you wrong, like
Mm.
when they haven't done the ethical thing by you, you still remain on that high road. You never go down into the mud and do anything. So I think that is an amazing quality and so rare. So I'm
Uh,
very glad to have you in my life because you keep me on the straight and narrow.
Oh, thank you. Look, like this is actually one of my philosophy of life. Just because something is doing wrong by you, it's on them. So your choice is how you're going to respond and how you're going to show up for that situation. And I always wanted to be different. So if someone is doing wrong by me, I want to be different, and I still want to honor everything, whatever I can honor in the situation. And yeah, I never wanted to go down to that rabbit hole.
No, no, you don't. In every aspect, you never go down into. And I think even when you have those, and we are not here to say any of our journey has been smooth sailing. Most of it has been like a lot of it's been really rough and challenging, and had to dig in. But Adriana never lets herself sort of sit in and stew about something either. Like if it goes wrong, I've you have that. You only explain that you only give yourself how long?
Oh, a weekend. So I only can take a weekend.
Yeah. So when I'm saying about that is Adriana only allows herself to feel upset or down or you know um, sorry for herself, if that's the thing, like or for a certain amount of time. I think you usually only go a day, but there's been a couple of instances where
Yeah,
maybe
so the weekend is my
longer.
maximum. Yeah, when
Yeah.
it's something really big hits me, I take a weekend. When it's something big, like like when my visa was refused, or when we
Hmm.
decided to go apart with Janos, then 2 days what I allow for myself to
Yeah.
if I want to cry, I cry. If I want to eat bad food, then I eat bad food. If I want to stay in my pajamas, then I will stay in my pajamas. But if just normal bad things, like when it's sometimes things are like escalating, and yes, sometimes I just say, all right, so 1 day, yeah, but 2 days the maximum, really.
Yeah. And then she's back in it. Rightio. What are we going to do to change this? What do we need to do to move forward? So that's always really inspiring, and I think that's great having a partner or a business partner. This is why I call Adriana my work wife. Her and Graham are so similar. So I've got Adriana during the day, I've got Graham at night, and they both keep me on the even keel. I'm very blessed.
Yes, we are very blessed with
Um,
you too. But that's going to be your turn next time, so we're going to
yeah.
put some shine on your very, very positive things also.
Oh, I'm only positive because I have positive people around me. Don't worry, I know that I'm a succubus. Like I end up, I'm a reflection of the people I have around me. I ride other people's skirt tails when it comes to being good.
Yeah.
It's good by association.
Oh, here you go.
Okay, well that comes to the end of our Q&A with Adri today. We will be coming back with our next one. I think Adri's going to interview me.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it because we are so different. So
Very
you
different,
wouldn't
yeah.
even think two different different people like us actually could work together, and we work together amazingly well, and we have very, very different life, and we have extremely different personality, and we are still working amazingly together. So I'm looking forward interviewing you because your story is just as fascinating and very, very interesting. So